Every martial artist knows the formula of force equals mass times acceleration. In this formula, the force is how much devastating power you can create in your opponent's body. The acceleration is the speed, maybe even said the change of speed, which is your quickness, how fast you can snap. How quick are you? How fast are you? This video is about the mass. If you weigh a lot, if you have a ton of muscle, if you're a big beefy guy or a big beefy girl, you will punch with more force. You will kick with more force. You will be able to create more devastation in your opponent because you have more mass. Let me show you guys a couple quick ways that I develop mass, and I do these things every single day. When it comes down to it, I'm gonna be honest with you. Push-ups is one of the most important ways that a martial artist can add mass that's applicable for having power bombs when they punch. Even though your deltoid and your tricep are the two muscle groups that are most associated with a punch, it is important to train your back muscles, your lat muscles, your biceps, because it all is going to be adding to the mass your body has that will be behind that punch. So do not neglect your pulling actions. And the number one exercise for pulling is pull-ups. You've got to create more stress on your muscles by making your muscles push extra body weight, hence making them bigger and stronger. So I use my 40-pound weight vest to do this. It is also important sometimes to do higher weight and lower reps to build that mass. So the weight vest goes back on for the same pull-ups. I have fought some big dudes in my life that have zero speed and zero snap. They only rely on their mass, and let me tell you, they don't hit very hard. I've also fought some small dudes that have zero mass, but they have tons of speed and tons of snap, and they do not hit very hard. If you've already got the mass and you're a big person, you need to bring in some speed if you want to amplify your force. And if you got a small body, if you don't weigh very much, you got to start putting on some mass. And then combine that mass with your speed, and then you will have a whole bunch of force. Whether it's a straight punch, whether it's a back fist, you have to have both aspects, speed and mass. And if you combine them together, they will be a family that will give you the most power in the room. This is a bonus for you guys who sat through the credits. There's two more things that I do to ensure that I have the most powerful punches, and the most powerful fists, and the most powerful arms. And the first of those two things is bone strength. Technically, if you just strengthen your bones, you're not technically adding any mass, you're not technically adding any speed, and you're not technically adding any acceleration. But let me tell you something, when you strengthen the surface, when you strengthen the tool that will be hitting the object, which is your opponent, they're going to feel as if you have twice as much power, even if you are the same size and have the same speed. If you guys are a professional fighter like you are in boxing or MMA and you wear gloves, you'll know that the bigger the gloves are, the harder you can hit somebody, and they're pretty safe. The smaller the gloves get and the less padding they have, the more you can really injure somebody, cut them, slice them, and do serious brain damage. So we want to toughen up the bones, because ultimately, if our bones are way more strong and dense than our opponent's face or our opponent's bones, we can make it feel like we have far more power than we do. I utilize Makiwara boards. I have a whole assortment of these boards with cuts in them. This one's very old. I put the cuts in so there's a little bit of reverberation in there. I put it on the ground, I just hit it. And I have an Ironbone DVD at jakemace.com that shows you how to hit it traditionally. This is not an Ironbone video per se, but this is one of my keys to increase my power. And I'll just use my body and focus on the first two knuckles for a while. Then of course the other hand. First two knuckles for a while, then I'll do the back two for a while, and I'll do about 100 hits. And the goal is not to hit hard, the goal is to do it every day or every other day and be consistent, because you don't want to injure yourself and you don't want to break the skin, but you do want to punish the bone so that it heals stronger and more dense. Trust me, after 50 to 100 hits of the board, when you hit your opponent's jaw, it feels like nothing. There's a second tool that I use to accomplish the same feat. Let me show you what it is right now. This is the second tool that I have here in the backyard of my house that gives you a very similar effect of the previous drill. I use the rope around a 4x6, and this is anchored into the ground really deep, so it's very strong. We can hit it as hard as we want. Now you could put cuts into this so that it has the same reverberation effect, but I did not. I find that the rope is enough. And then the goal is not to hit it as hard as you can, but it's to hit it as hard as you need to strengthen the bones in your fist. So I'll sit here in a good stance and I'll hit it and let my fist set. Let the vibration return into my bones. Working those first two knuckles. I have an Ironbone DVD that has my favorite 20 traditional Kung Fu exercises from Ironbone at jakemace.com. This is one of them. I'll do 50 reps of this. Guess what happens? When you hit a human with that same bone, it feels like nothing. It feels like a marshmallow. My second bonus secret, for those of you that stuck around, uses a bag, or you can get a partner, an opponent. I have no opponent right now, so I'll use the bag. Eliminating power leaks. If you have crazy amounts of mass, you weigh 300 pounds and you're solid muscle, and you are also fast, and you have the mass and the acceleration, you have the mass and the speed, so your force is off the charts. If you have a power leak, if your technique is not good, and if your power is going somewhere else instead of into your opponent will not feel your mass. Your opponent will not feel your speed, and your opponent will not be hurt with your force. So it's important when you practice your punches, you want to drive the punch from the hip, drive the punch from the legs, and let the arms be the tool that delivers the strike, but the force that propelled the arms comes from the hips and the legs and the earth. It's called kinetic linking. We link the energy from the ground up. And this is one of the key things that Chinese martial arts teaches us: how to use our strength, how to use our power in an efficient way with no power leaks. So when I'm hitting the bag, if I use all arm, I've got a power leak. If I'm hitting and my wrist is bending, or if the bag is spinning, I've got a power leak. If I'm standing too upright, like, to be honest, a lot of Wing Chun guys stand too upright, they're not going to be generating enough power from the legs. Get down into it, get close to the bag, and feel like your hip is hitting the opponent. Your hip is hitting the bag, and your arm is just the tool that delivers the strike. Not even too hard. Just work on hitting it with the hip. With the hip. And work on driving all of your energy right into that bag. So that when you hit, you're hitting really square. No leaks. Elbow in. Hip twisting. Body shifting. Waist turning. Feet rooted. The earth giving me power. I promise you, when you train slow like this and build the power slowly with each strike until eventually you're hitting pretty hard, using your full weight, boom, ha, ha. You will then hit your opponent with whatever force you have. If you only have a little bit of force, because you're a small person and you're not that strong, you're not that fast, make sure that whatever force you do have is not leaking. It's 100% going into your opponent. If you do that, I promise you, you will be more powerful than your size and your speed dictates.